karyotyping, then you go for the, but you cannot give a proper answer. You can give a proper, why we are going for this karyotyping? We want to give an answer to the couple. Any couple who has got 2 or 3 loss, that person wants an answer. Why did this happen? Will it happen again? These are the typical questions which the couple has. So to answer these questions, to explain these questions, we are going for these karyotyping. And I have tried to make it simple to understand that what is the importance of doing a karyotyping, and once you get a karyotyping result, how to proceed further. Like there may be 1 or 2 miscarriages, 3 miscarriages.
Dr. Sashi.
Yes. Now we have got a POC karyotype. Now this karyotype can be an aneuploid. Now what next? What next? No further evaluation. And we can consider PGT. We can consider PGT and we counsel. Even with aneuploidy, there may be some sporadic miscarriages. But we have to, if the couple is very, very anxious, we can offer them PGDA. If it is an euploid karyotype, then what do? Then we have to go for other causes, because many times when you are suspecting an abnormal karyotype or chromosomal abnormality, it comes to some endocrinal cause, it could be some anatomical cause. So we have to do a thorough workup even in the first trimester loss. We cannot just say that it is because of or it may coexist also. Along with chromosomal abnormality, there may be some other treatable cause which we can treat, and then the patient can have a successful outcome. And third is when we find unbalanced translocation, as we discussed, in these cases we go for a parental karyotyping.
PGD कब करते हैं किरण?
When more than 2 or more abortions before 20 weeks of pregnancy, then we should try pre-implantation genetic diagnosis.
PGD क्या हम लोग अपने क्लिनिक में कर सकते हैं?
Pre-implantation genetic diagnosis.
Pre-implantation genetic diagnosis.
In IVF cases.
Yes.
So we'll come for the management. Now just for the workup, I think these are the latest updated guidelines which says that CMA is the preferred modality for POC genetic testing, because it is not limited by tissue culture failure or false negative results secondary to maternal cell contamination. Dr. Veena has talked about it. But the limitation of CMA technology is, as Archana had told, it is unable to detect balanced structural chromosomal rearrangements and low level mosaicism. So, and again it emphasizes that apart from this analysis of POC, next please, you should go for other tests also. Now coming to the management, who will talk about the management of this case? Dr.
Chanda
or Dr. Rani? Any one of you can. Now this case, the patient has come with 3 losses and you get an normal karyotyping or an abnormal karyotyping. Now what next? Now all tests have been done and she has got an abnormal karyotype. Now what do you do?
Then
I think we don't have genetic counseling centers in our place.
Yes.
Now I think
Madam,
it is available.
reassure the both partner, and then give the genetic counseling, send for the genetic counseling where they can do, and further if suggest for the IVF with the PGD.
PGD, always after PGD, because we have to select the embryo, select the blastocyst which is normal.
Yes, ma'am.
So PGD, Dr. Kiran was talking. Can you talk more about PGD?
Ma'am, in case of IVF, first we should check the embryo, whether it is genetic chromosomal abnormality or free from chromosomal abnormality. If embryo is healthy, then we should transfer this embryo and we can get healthy pregnancy in IVF cases.
Now again, this is just a summary of what we have talked till now, that if the POC CMA reveals an unbalanced translocation or an inversion, then we do parental karyotyping. Genetic counseling, very important. The patient should always be sent for genetic counsel where they will know about the risk, that what will be the future risk. I think that is very important, and also in these cases we should consider IVF with PGT. If it is aneuploidy, then no further testing is generally recommended. And if it is euploidy, then we have to go for other tests. Now what about prognosis? Now these patients they'll ask, अब अगली बार क्या होगा? आगे हमारा क्या होगा? Now how do you explain the prognosis? I think this is a very important part as clinician, how we explain the prognosis.
We will assure the patient for future.
Even after 2 to 3 pregnancy loss, there is chances of 70% of
Very
successful
good.
pregnancy.
Very good. So at the time of counseling, they look at us that what we are going to tell. So we have to be very empathetic towards them, and we have to tell them that even if parental abnormality is found after karyotyping, the cumulative live birth rates are good. DM officer, तुम करो आगे पढ़ो. Hello.
Yes. All known preventable and potentially treatable abnormality in first trimester loss RPL cases, whether anatomic, immunological or endocrine, are to be addressed regardless of POC cytogenic analysis results. Because it has been shown that approximately 25% of women with aneuploid result on POC CMA analysis will have a treatable cause of RPL or modified ASRM workup is necessary.
Next. Now we come to the case 2,
Case
and
number
this
2.
case will be taken by Dr. Vibha Verma.
Yeah. Here the patient is 32-year-old and she had first preterm delivery, and now she had a second loss at no, it is first loss only at 24 weeks. Patient says that she had pain and bleeding, and she aborted within a couple of hours after admission. No detailed history or prescription is present. So what you are suspecting?
Cervical incompetence. Cervical incompetence.
See this ultrasound. She comes to you and you do a scan. Now you are saying that here she is having a septate uterus. What would you do?
Surgical resection of
Is the opinion divided, or you have the same opinion?
We have to look for cervical length also.
Yes.
and surgical.
Many causes might be present.
Here septum resection is done and she is reassured that it will be okay next time. Next time it will be fine. Role of uterine surgery for anatomical causes. Smita.
As you said, ma'am, the septum resection done and everything will be fine. That's not the case. The meta-analysis have shown that this resection processes should be done for an audit and research purposes, and because these are not always the cases, not proved to be the cause of RPL, and more RCTs are required to prove and blame them as the cause of RPL.
Well, the other thing that this question we want to ask you is that what are the other anatomical abnormalities where surgery is going to help? We know there are different anomalies,
Yes.
Mullerian anomalies. Is surgery going to help in all of them?
Leiomyomas में
Didelphys.
endometrial polyp.
One by one, yes.
So, like biconjugate uterus or uniconjugate uterus or this didelphys, surgery should be avoided as much as possible. And even there are no evidence that cervical cerclage should be done in all cases of uniconjugate uterus. So you have to see the case to case. We have to assess.
So you have to individualize your case, because we have done hysterectomies and there was a chance finding that it was a case of uterus biconjugate or uterus didelphys, and the patient had all normal deliveries, and suddenly when we are doing hysterectomy we are finding that it is a biconjugate uterus. So whenever you are deciding for surgery, of course septate uterus is one condition where you do surgery you get rewarding results. I think Prachi can also talk about it. For septate uterus, I think everybody will go for hysteroscopic resection. Whatever the evidence is, I think all infertility experts and all those who are doing endoscopic surgery, they are going for septal resection. More than, yes, the size of the septum also, the degree of the septum also matters. And if the septum is more than 1 centimeter, as you said, you definitely, because that will interfere with implantation. So if there is septal implantation, definitely the blood supply will not be there and the patient will have repeated miscarriages. So you always go for septal resection. But for other anomalies, again, you have to think what you are going to do. For bicoordinate uterus, we have seen Dr.
Metroplasty for bicoordinate
Yeah,
uterus.
we have seen Dr. Alka Kriplani performing metroplasty, but I think many cases they conceive.
Yeah, but we have seen many transverse live pregnancy in bicoordinate uterus. While normal cesarean section.
And also possible in iliocoordinate uterus, many pregnancy.
Smita has said the studies still show that we need more studies to show benefit of hysteroscopic uterine septum dissection, and metroplasty is not recommended for bicoordinate uterus, hemiuterus and diadelphus as such. What is the latest algorithm that Vibha is going to explain?
An upgraded algorithm recommends that the uterine cavity be evaluated for RPL. Women given such abnormality are common but are simply treatable. जैसे Ashray committee concluded that the 3-dimensional ultrasound has an accuracy of 97.6%.
1 minute. As most of you told that you have encountered uterine anomalies as a part of your cause of RPL. Now, how do you diagnose these cases? What is your method of diagnosis?
Ultrasound.
So 3D ultrasound, I think we don't need to, though the books they write sonohysteroscopy and all these things, but I think a good 3D ultrasound, and MRI is also not the first line of investigation. The first line of investigation is always a 3D ultrasound where you get you can see the morphological abnormalities in the uterus. Okay.
Ashray prefers the 3-dimensional TVS to assess uterine cavity abnormalities in recurrent pregnancy loss. ASRM accepts sonohysterography, hysteroscopy and hysterosalpingography are suitable methods. RCOG suggests pelvic ultrasound on all women with RPL followed by hysteroscopy and 3-dimensional ultrasound if the uterine anomaly is suspected. This is second case.
No, same case.
Oh my God.
Same case, what happened now?
Second is spontaneous painless abortion at 18 weeks.
Now you have done the septum resection, you have sent the patient home, given a message कि चलो सब ठीक हो जाएगा. लेकिन अगली बार जब वो फिर pregnant हो रही है, तो she is coming at 18 weeks with another spontaneous painless abortion. So how do you
Cervical incompetence.
So as somebody pointed out, whenever there is one anomaly, always look for other anomalies also. So there may be an associated cervical incompetence or a cervical weakening which you have missed in your earlier evaluation. So that is very important.
Do you think that Sarclaz will answer to all questions?
If cervical length is less than 25 centimeter, 2.5 centimeter, yeah.
Less than 2.5 centimeter and funneling is there.
Yes, speaking the mic.
But before cervical Sarclaz we should see level anomaly scan सब कुछ पहले देखने के बाद. Otherwise if you are
नहीं आजकल 11 to 13 weeks में हम लोग most of the anomalies can be ruled out. First trimester scan, you should do any combined screening and then only you can go for Sarclaz. That is important.
Before Sarclaz you have to do some investigation. Otherwise अगर कुछ karyotyping में problem and you are putting a Sarclaz, abortion is going to happen anyhow.
Now what about progesterone from this side? Progesterone. What is?
Progesterone, injectable progesterone is given.
So some
Micronized progesterone
Dydrogesterone.
आजकल डाइड्रोजेस्ट्रॉन का जमाना हो गया है ना.
In what doses?
400 milligram per vaginally twice daily.
Archana, what is your institutional policy? Which progesterone are you giving and in what dose?
We are giving dydrogesterone, ma'am. It depends, like if it is just means in threatened abortions, we are giving 30 milligram initially, and then once the bleeding stops, then we move on to 10 milligram OD.
Can I say something?
उसके बाद फिर स्टार्ट होता है, उसके बाद फिर 20.
अपने अपने choice पर है. There are studies which have
Ma'am, can I
some
say
studies
something?
say dydrogesterone is superior to micronized progesterone. Some studies say the micronized progesterone. It is all pharma-driven studies. Most of the studies are pharma-driven studies. Sir, Pradeep sir, do you agree with me?
Yes.
So we cannot say that this progesterone is better than this. But yes, progesterone does have a role in women who have mid-trimester loss. And of course, but the most important thing is monitoring. You have to monitor these women with ultrasound. You have to monitor the cervical length and see, and then only you should go. These days we have to practice evidence based. We can't say हम ऐसा करते थे, हमारे मैडम ऐसा करते थे. ऐसा नहीं है. We have to go evidence based, but of course we need to individualize our cases.
Ma'am, what about vaginal gel progesterone?
Yeah, of course you can use. I said now all forms of progesterone are good. Which your patient is comfortable. You have to convince your patient. Many patients are not ready for vaginal progesterone. So the way you convince your patient, the way you handle your patients, I think that is also important.
When surclass should be done?
Which circles? McDonald's, I think all of us,
McDonald's is handy. McDonald's.
everyone is doing McDonald's. Sir, Pradeep sir, you are doing Shirodkar or McDonald's? McDonald's. Madam, Madhuri madam.
88% of the people are doing McDonald and 12% are doing Shirodkar. When the McDonald failure is there, you can go for Shirodkar. If Shirodkar also fails, you can go for the abdominal.
So that will also depend upon the cervical length. If the cervix is very much scarred, it is totally short and totally absent, then you might have to go even for abdominal cerclage. है ना? हाँ, so now we move on to the third case. So thank you, Vibha. You handled the second case very well. I think next time she had a successful pregnancy. So now we come to the third case. She is Mrs. Rani, 30 years, para 2+1. She has come with a history of 10 weeks pregnancy. She developed eclampsia in her first pregnancy at 34 weeks. In her second pregnancy, she had placental abruption at 36 weeks. And again, she had a missed abortion at 10 weeks. What is the most likely diagnosis? So, antiphospholipid antibody, I think Archana must be very happy with this. So now, next. So now, can anybody tell me what are the clinical criteria and laboratory criteria? One of you can tell me the clinical criteria and one of you can tell me the laboratory criteria for diagnosing antiphospholipid antibody syndrome.
When there is a first pregnancy loss, that is 10 week or more than the gestational age. Second one is before 34 week, there is a IUD due to pre-eclampsia or eclampsia. And in third criteria, more than 3 or consecutive pregnancy loss before 10 week.
Okay, everybody agrees to it? Or some more clinical criteria, history of arterial thrombosis or venous thrombosis. I think that is also an important history, and especially then our testing also it becomes different. Okay, so now laboratory criteria from this side.
Ma'am,
Smita will.
phospholipid antibody and anticoagulant antibody.
So okay, so now Smita, which are the antiphospholipids antibody which are significant for causing adverse pregnancy outcome?
First is lupus anticoagulant, that is diagnosed by diluted Russell Viper venom test, and second
Anti-nuclear antibody test.
Third is beta-2 glycoprotein 1, and apart from this, there are phosphatidic acid, phosphatidyl glycerol, inositol, like that.
But clinically significant that we are doing in our clinical practice is ACA and LA. I think anti-beta 2 specific glycoprotein. I think these are the 3 antibodies which are important, and this should be done. What should be the time interval between testing? 6 weeks. Again, there is a controversy, 12 weeks and 6 weeks. So at least it should be confirmed after 12 weeks of pregnancy. Next. So this is the revised classification criteria for the antiphospholipid antibody syndrome, that is Sydney criteria. And the one vascular thrombosis pregnancy related morbidity, I think you all had mentioned this, but this vascular thrombosis history is also very important. You should take this history, and there should be there should be confirmed by histopathological confirmation also that thrombosis was present. Next. So no treatment, I think we all agree to
low dose aspirin and
when to start low dose aspirin? So some may start preconceptional also. Yes, but at least once the pregnancy test is positive, immediately you should start aspirin, low dose aspirin. And what about heparin, low molecular weight? After the cardiac activity comes, what about IV immunoglobulins? How many of you are using it? Any of you?
IVF centers, they are using.
So madam is using it. Ranjana madam, we would like to have your opinion. No, yahi de do. Ranjana madam is using IV immunoglobulin, so let's hear from her. No, Prachi, any idea? Are you using, sir, are you using IV immunoglobulins? Priya?
Shruti Banka?
Using for recurrent pregnancy loss, not for IVF. I am asking for recurrent pregnancy loss.
We are using Bharglo.
So initially we were using Bharglo, we were using corticosteroids also. But I think these are not evidence based. We do not need to use steroids. We do not need to use IV immunoglobulins. The only treatment for APS is low molecular weight heparin and low dose aspirin. एक मिनट पीछे see, new things are coming, but when we are talking in such forums, we have to come up with things which are evidence based and which everyone should follow. So now, what about inherited thrombophilia? Do you do routine testing for inherited thrombophilia? No. So what are the indications for doing what are the common inherited thrombophilia? Anybody?
Factor 5 lead-in.
Yes.
Factor protein C deficiency, protein S deficiency.
Yes.
It's written over there. Prothrombin gene mutation and
antithrombin 3 deficiency and hyperhomocystinemia. They all come under inherited thrombophilia, and routinely we don't need to do, but as you said, unexplained miscarriage. When we have done everything, then in those cases it may be indicated, but otherwise we don't test routinely for inherited thrombophilia except if there is a history of vascular thrombosis, both arterial or venous thrombosis.
Ma'am, especially second trimester.
Yes, but routinely, I am asking, routinely it's not done. And it's not a part of RPL workup, but in special cases you can go for it. What about MTHFR mutation for hyperhomocystinemia? Are you doing it routinely? No, again it is not done routinely. Next. So what is the latest guideline? It recommends screening for APS as a potentially treatable. That is very important. When we get APS positive, we know it is a treatable condition. All 3 societies, that is ASHRAE, SRM and RCOG, they recommend testing for APS using LA, IgG and IgM, anticardiolipin in all patients with RPL, antiphosphatidylserine serine antibody testing to identify an additional 5% of women with APS. It could be added, but routinely we are not doing it. ASRM adding testing for IgG and IgM anti-beta 2 glycoprotein 1 antibodies, and all of us are of the general consensus that low dose aspirin 75 to 100 milligram per day beginning before conception and a prophylactic dose of heparin starting with a positive pregnancy test and continuing to delivery. So this is the change that has been done. Initially heparin was given with the cardiac activity, but now heparin is given with a positive pregnancy test. Next. Endocrine factors, this side somebody told, Chanda जी आप बताइए एंडोक्राइन टेस्टिंग में आप क्या कराइएगा एंड
excluding diabetes and
what
thyroid,
test will you do to exclude diabetes?
blood sugar and antiglobulin.
I think hemoglobin A1C, I think we can do the glycosylated hemoglobin.
Glycosylated hemoglobin.
Yes, and for thyroid?
Thyroid mainly TSH and free T4.
Will you go for the TPO antibodies? Yes. So in cases of infertility, this is a place where we go for TPO antibody testing, and if they are positive, and the TSH level is more than 2.5, we can start eltroxin. We can start levothyroxine, and so we have to test for TSH, TPO. Prolactin, I think we should test, but PCOS is not recommended. I have a beautiful chart at the end of my talk. Next.
LPD, ma'am.
Now this is just a summary that apart from doing this test, you should always screen for extremes of weight, alcohol, smoking, then APS, anatomical testing, endocrine testing, and accordingly you do. Next. And this is about how to go for the CMA of the cytogenetic analysis of the RPOC. This is just a summary of what we have been talking. Now unexplained cases. Here you consider hereditary thrombophilia testing. If you may consider DNA sperm fragmentation testing, consider parental karyotyping, luteal phase deficiency, endometritis testing, and consider hysteroscopy if there is a history of uterine surgery. Now comes a case, now third miscarriage, if you have not done the earlier test, you do them, and you do all the tests of unexplained miscarriage. Next. So now what will you do when you get management of subsequent miscarriage? You have done all the tests and then again the patient miscarries. Then if no test has been done, we'll again do all the tests. But if they have all been done, then counseling.
Lifestyle modification.
So again here also you should always go for karyotyping of the POC. That is very important. And here we can go for IVF along with PGT. Now this is a very busy slide, but here we can get the recommendations, the latest recommendation. Parental karyotyping, it's not recommended by Royal College, not recommended in the latest algorithm in 2020, but ASRM, it recommends. POC cytogenetic analysis, I think recommended both by Royal College as well as the proposed 2022 algorithm. Uterine cavity, I think all the societies they recommend. Antiphospholipid, again universal recommendation. Thyroid function, recommended by all. Prolactin, again recommended. Hemoglobin A1C, such a simple test, I think it is recommended and we should all go for it. Hereditary thrombophilia, not routinely recommended. Only recommended, we can see the last one, if there is a personal or a strong family history of thrombosis or thrombophilia. And then is PCOS, not recommended. Ovarian reserve testing, not recommended. Vitamin D deficiency, yes, we can do it, and because that is again a treatable thing, we can do vitamin D deficiency, vitamin D estimation, and we can supplement. So thank you, my panelists were brilliant, and I'm really very, very happy, and I take this opportunity to thank Ranila Madam, our patron of Muzaffarpur OBGY Society, Neelam Di, President of Muzaffarpur OBGY Society, Sadhna Singh, and the whole team of scientific committee. I think most of them are my students, Jyoti, Smita, Rajni, Archana. They all have worked with me, and it was really a pleasure to talk to them and to conduct this panel. Thank you so much. Thank you. And Prachi was also once my student.
Yes, now we will go for lunch.
हम लोग का सोसाइटी के लिए मैडम कंप्लीट बेड रेस्ट एंड स्टेज में
I would